7 out of 10.
Interesting. That's how I rate your preaching ability.
That's fair.
I'm totally kidding. He's just really a 5. He's a 10.
Oh.
Well, hey guys,
Wow.
welcome to House Parties. We are so thrilled that you guys are here. What's really funny is we actually just made it halfway through the whole filming of this thing, and I realized I messed up. So
okay.
Here we are, part 2. Everything's always better the second time.
Yep, for sure.
Especially when you
Everything? I need
watch
to
Star
think
Wars
about
movies.
I don't know. Depends on which one.
That's true. All right, anyways, we got some slices. What do you got?
Slices. Okay. So there is one of you who got their driver's license a few months ago. And within the first few weeks, there have been like multiple speeding tickets. They hopped a curb, just learning how to drive.
Which is funny because typically you do that before you get your license.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. We all have different like skill sets and abilities, and this person has had different challenging experiences. And so you know how we send out birthday cards to people
Every birthday.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, like I wrote a birthday card for this person, and I said "Happy Birthday," and in parentheses I said "Drive better," and then we sent them out.
Because we write these like 3 weeks before birthdays so that they get there on time.
Yeah, for sure. So forgot all about it, and then this person's birthday was this last week, and it was I think it was the day before or the day of their birthday. They get in this really serious car accident. Like they're okay, which I'm relieved by, but like their car is totaled and like they don't have a car anymore.
Shouldn't
and
be laughing at this.
Like really scary. And then they get a birthday card from me, from Stetson that says, "Happy birthday, drive better." When I realized the timing of this, I felt so bad, and I reached out to the person. I was like, "Look, I wrote this before this happened. It wasn't connected to this at all," and they were really cool about it. I think they have such a good sense of humor. They would have thought it was funny either way. But
Well, it's either that or you're just like really prophetic.
true. Yeah, maybe so.
Can you send me a birthday card with something, but like make it good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Speaking of birthdays, you have one coming up.
I do.
So everybody
33.
on Saturday, I think that's your birthday, right? Saturday?
No, I think it's Monday.
Okay, on Monday, everybody text Stetson your most hilarious birthday GIF.
Oh yeah.
And
I
I'm
love
gonna
that.
I'm gonna put your number up here so everybody has it. It'll forever be on the internet.
Great.
It'll be great. Cool. Okay, so for my slice, which you know I had already asked you this, but I'm gonna ask you again because they didn't hear me ask you it. If you were a funeral home, what kind of advertising would you do to try to drum up business and get your name out there?
Die more.
Die Harder. Was that a movie? Die Hard, Die Harder? Yeah.
Oh, there was a Die Harder?
I think so.
Okay. It's a bad title.
All right, so in
uncreative.
North Carolina, have you guys ever seen one of those like vans that drives around with the billboards on the back? So there was this van that started driving around in the city in North Carolina, and the only thing that this billboard said is, "Don't get vaccinated." Now, if you were to see that, most people assumed, okay, this is obviously it's an anti-vax group, people who have a moral opposition to vaccinations. Easy assumption to make until you read the fine print. And you find out that it's actually a funeral home who has put this out there.
Nice.
And I don't know if it's like sarcasm, if they're trying to make a point about something, but it kind of seems pretty brilliant to me.
That is
to where it's
brilliant.
like people are looking at your website. Those who think it's hilarious are like, they've got a sense of humor. I'm going to give them my business when I die. But then at the same time, if like people don't get vaxxed, like there is that potential.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, you know what I just realized? That whole thing you said earlier is gone.
I said some controversial statements unintentionally in the first take, and I'm so glad we're doing this again.
Because I was going to leave them in
Some
there.
of your parents would not let you continue to hang out with us anymore. Yeah.
And he didn't even mean it. That was the
I
best
didn't.
part.
It was, yeah.
I think
a lot of backtracking.
I think you've had the best ones of those where you've said
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
like the whole thing about that politician
Yep.
from South Africa. If you don't know what it is, I'll post it on social media.
Oh, great.
soon.
No, please don't.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for Slices. We are going to dive into what we have for you guys this evening. As always, like our hope is begin a conversation, hand it off to you guys where you guys can really begin to process it.
Yep.
Now, if you've been around CC students for a little while, maybe you're somewhat new, you would know that like we do our very best to try to equip you guys to honestly have like the best quality of life that you can. And that's why for the next 4 weeks, we're going to actually spend some time focusing on an area that we know causes a lot of conflict, a lot of drama, maybe some heartache. And that's simply this, it's your friendships. Right. And so let me ask you some questions as we get started, just to kind of set the tone of where we're going to be going tonight. Do you have so many friends that sometimes it's kind of hard to keep them all straight? Is keeping up with everything that's happening in everybody's life who's around you becoming somewhat of a burden? Could you maybe use a little less drama in your life from some of your more needy friends? Are there too many dog filter selfies on your Instagram feed? Well, we've got a solution that we want to propose to you guys, and that's simply this. Get rid of your friends. And you're probably asking, like, how do I do that? Like, I spent so much time investing in these relationships. Like, some of these people I have literally known since first grade. Like, it took so long to build them. Isn't it going to take me a long time to unbuild these friendships, to drive these people away?
No.
Well, we got some pretty good news for you. Losing your friends is actually kind of simple.
Yep. It's easy.
All you have to do is be a bad friend.
Yeah.
And so over the next month, we're going to introduce you guys to 4 ways to stop being a good friend and to start becoming a bad friend.
Yeah.
And tonight, it's actually one of the simplest ones. It's actually something that we kind of learn about as we look at Scripture. And the Bible teaches this, right? It comes out of Proverbs 17:17. It says this: a friend loves at all times, and a brother or sister is born for a time of adversity. You see, what this verse seems to be saying is that a friend is always somebody who needs to be there for you.
Right.
Especially in the hard times.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to be a good friend, then we actually got to just do the opposite of this. Therefore, our tip for you guys tonight is actually pretty simple. If you want to be a bad friend, don't be committed to your friends and stop showing up for them.
Yeah.
And Stetson, you've actually got 3 pretty good ways that they can stop doing this, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. So the first one is just like with your physical presence, don't be committed. So don't be in the same place as them on a regular basis. So like if they come and sit next to you, that would be your cue to get up and like move. If they invite you to come to something, don't go because you're not being physically committed. And if you have something going on and you don't want to be a good friend to them, just don't invite them because that risks the two of you being in the same place at the same time.
But what if they get something cool that you want to use?
Well, then it's like, okay, like there's something in it for you. But what we're trying to do here is avoid like the baggage of other people.
So like
problems.
if they're having an awesome birthday party, go
then
show
it's
up.
Worth it for sure. You don't need to spend any time with them.
Don't give them a gift or anything like that.
Right, for sure. Like
so
just
use them.
Play the laser tag, jump in the bounce houses, but
go home.
Go home. Yeah, for sure.
Don't text them again.
Which kind of ties into the second way. It's like don't be committed mentally, which is basically don't waste any time thinking about them. Like don't think about them. Don't pray for them. Like if they start talking to you, you don't need to engage in that. You don't need to use the mental fortitude to like carry on a conversation. You can just like ignore them and pretend like they're not there. That'll get the message across really clear that you're not interested in being friends. And the third one is like kind of a deeper level, and that's like emotionally. Don't be committed emotionally. So it's not just not thinking about them, it's not even caring about them. So if they have a problem, don't make it your problem. If they're having a hard day, don't make it your hard day. Like you've got a good day going on. It's like
so good.
Don't let them just get in the way of it. So if they start talking to you about things, you can tell them it's like, and you got to be careful with this one because there's really very little going back after you say stuff like this. But just say, it's like, you're really bothering me. Go bother somebody else. So yeah, if you are not committed and consistent with someone physically, mentally, emotionally, those friends will drop like flies and you'll have much more free time.
Okay. Now, are you actually serious about any of this?
No.
All right, I know it's kind of funny to hear us talk about some of these things, and I hope you all know that we're not actually suggesting you do any of this, but in talking about this in that way with some of that satire, I think it's pretty easy to see, like, you know what, man, it's kind of easy to be a bad friend. And maybe, like, as we were going through that, you kind of identified, like, ooh, maybe I'm being a little bit of a bad friend right now. Maybe I'm not committed and showing up in the way that I need to.
Sure.
And, like, I know for me, like, there have been so many times in my life where I've been this uncommitted friend, and I'm reminded all of the time, like, of just how terrible of a friend I've been. Like, if I've got a friend who's walking, here's a great example. Somebody's moving, right? And I'm sure you've done this too. And then you get that text message. It's like, hey, I need help moving. Who can show up? And this is where, like, you look at the phone, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to open that one.
My least favorite thing in the
And
world.
then, like, 3 days later, you text them back and go, hey, sorry, just saw this. Hope you got it all done. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've done that.
Yeah. Or you could pretend like you've missed the date and the day after be like, yeah, I'd love to help. When is it? And then they say yesterday. You're like, oh, shoot, man. Sorry. Yeah. And the other thing is, like, if a friend, like, after they move away, it's like there's a friend, like, I'm actually having lunch with him today, but, like, there was a period of, like, years where we just didn't talk to each other. And it was like, because we didn't talk to each other, that friendship just, like, I don't know, got put on pause. And turns out he was kind of going through a bit of a rough season, so it's good we started reconnecting again.
Yeah. You know, as I think about this, you know, I've just become so convinced that, like, in this world, in our lives, like, we need each other because, you know, the reality is, like, we're going to face hard times, right? Life is not always easy. In fact, many of you guys know this. Sometimes life is incredibly challenging. And if we go back to that Bible verse from Proverbs, like, why does it say we have friends? Well, it says we have them for times of adversity. You know, the reality is, like, life has a way of standing against us at sometimes, and that's really what close friends are for. Right? It's not just for when life is easy and fun and great. Like, we need people who can be in our corner, who can remind us of who we are, who can love us and support us when everything's falling apart all around us.
Yeah, and you never know when that's going to happen, which is why that consistency and that commitment is so important. Because it's not like you just call up people when life gets hard, but it's like, no, like, you've been together for a year, and this week is hard.
Yeah, you know, I think we're called to be friends who aren't shallow. Like, it's pretty clear, like, man, like, Jesus himself said this. He said, greater love has no one than this, comes out of John 15:13, than to lay down one's life for his friends, right? Like, this is putting a lot of weight on friendship. Like, it's giving it a lot of, like, gravity. Now this doesn't mean literally that we take a bullet for somebody, although maybe you want to, but what it does mean is that sometimes in friendships, we've actually got to put our own desires to death. We need to be unselfish, right? Sometimes the things that we want are not just different from what our friends want, but can actually sometimes be the exact opposite of what they need.
Yeah, for sure. Like, some examples of how this could work would be like if someone invited you to something, and I mean, like, the moving example was really good, but it could be something like more fun than that, and it's just like, I was like, I'd rather just, like, stay home, and just, like, kind of putting yourself before the other person is like, no, like, I would rather rest than celebrate my friend's birthday. But then laying down your life for somebody else is like, okay, I could rest some other time. What I really need to do is show up for my friend and celebrate their birthday and let them know that they're loved.
Yeah, and another example has to do with this whole idea of control. I mean, like, for a lot of us, we love to be in control, right? We love to talk about ourselves and about our interests, but sometimes it goes a long way when we actually let somebody else have the control, like when we make it about their needs and their desires and what's happening in their life. You know, I don't know, there's just something powerful about that if we don't make it all about us, but instead we make it about the people who are around us.
Yeah, sometimes we have friends where it's just like, it's been this nonstop series of unfortunate events for them. Like, most of the time it's like one thing, no big deal, like, I'll let you cry on my shoulder for a couple of days. But if it's like a month, then it's like, okay, like, this person, what they're going through, it's starting to, like, weigh on me. But if we take that and be like, well, they're just too much baggage, I'm gonna leave them behind, opposed to it's like, man, if I was going through this, how would I want my friends to be there for me?
Yeah.
And chances are, it's like, there are other friends of theirs that are just starting to, like, drop out. So not only are you going through a hard time, but people start, like, dropping out of your life. So putting your life aside for somebody else's is recognized as, like, it's not drama city in my world right now, I've got the capacity to be there for them.
Yeah. This reminds me of a story from the Old Testament that talks about the friendship these two guys had, Jonathan and David. And some of you guys maybe even know this story already, and I'm sure there are some of you who probably know nothing about it. So I'm just going to run over the most important facts so we can all kind of be on the same page, right? You got Jonathan. He's the son of Saul, who at that time was the king of Israel. Now the king, he wasn't exactly fond of David. In fact, he felt threatened by David. He
really
hated
jealous.
him because he knew that one day David was actually going to take over the kingdom, right? God had told him, like, I'm going to hand this kingdom over to him because you have not been the faithful king that I called you to be. Now, Jonathan, he was a cool dude, man. Like, he didn't care. Like, he was the next in line to the throne under his father, but he could care less about being the king. He didn't care who wore the crown because he and David were actually best friends.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, just thinking about that tension of, like, okay, your dad just despises this person and they are your best friend, and what the implications of what that means. And, like, there are times where, like, Jonathan, like, risked his life to be a good friend to David.
Yeah, like, and that's not even, like, hyperbole. Like, Saul was so jealous of David that, like, multiple times he tried to hatch these plans to murder him.
Yeah.
And you've got to imagine, like, putting yourself out there for your friend in that situation. Like, that's a hard thing because you're not just trying to protect your friend, you're also actively standing against your father, who just so happens to be the king of the nation commanding the army.
Yeah.
And you've got to wonder, like, man, did he ever doubt his friendship? Did he ever sit back and go, like, man, am I right for being friends with this guy?
Yeah. And I don't know if this is right or not, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just thought about it as, like, if David's out of the picture, that means Jonathan gets to be king at some point. So as long as David is there, he never gets to be king.
Yeah. Well, there was this one time when David had to flee because Saul had hatched this plot to kill him. And Jonathan heard about it, and Jonathan went and warned David. Fully knowing what it could cost him. Right? It could cost him his relationship with his father, but even beyond that, like, his dad had a temper. It could literally cost him his own life, but
I wouldn't doubt it.
He loved David, right? He really embodied that thing that Jesus said, right? Like a friend loves at all times. He literally risked his life. Like, he didn't say, look, you're just too much trouble, David, or sorry, David, but the kingdom can be mine now if I, like, play my cards right. He was a committed friend. He was one who was there for his friend through the thick and the thin because he didn't think of himself or his comfort. He was literally thinking, how do I love and serve and care for my friend?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, this brings up a few questions. Is like, are you friends with the people you're friends with because they're easy to be friends with them?
Yeah.
Or are there people in your life or were in your life that you really, really cared about and it just got too messy and you didn't want to be bothered by that messiness anymore?
Or for the people in your life right now, are there ways that you're actually neglecting them physically, mentally, and emotionally? Like, are you present? Are you showing up? Or are you being a bad friend in that area?
Yeah. Are you worried about what it would do to your reputation if you continued to be a good friend to those people? I think those are heavy questions.
Speaking of heavy questions, I feel like this would be a really good time to hand it off to house parties to really wrestle through some of that stuff. If you guys want, feel free, go through, read some of the story of Jonathan and David. But we've provided each of your leaders with a series of questions that really help you guys think through this. And again, our goal has always been to help you guys thrive and to experience life. And we know that friendships, this is one of the things that holds a lot of us back. It's possible that there is a lot of tension in your life right now, but here's the beauty. Just because you're dealing with something right now doesn't mean you have to be dealing with it tomorrow. Right? There are some things that you can begin to change, and a lot of it starts with just having an honest look at where we're at. And so we're going to invite you guys to do that in your house parties. We hope you guys have a great discussion, process this, spend some time praying for each other and being good friends to one another. And we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.